those who are joining us for the first time, my name is John. What you're about to actually see is basically a video presentation that surrounds a number of things, in particular 5 things. This has been created effectively from a lot of research and is part of what Shadow Crown Services does. What does it do? In this instance, it's training. Training for what? Helping you to improve your life. What you must remember throughout all of this is that it's not about telling you who you should be, telling you who you are, or what you should be. The long and short of it all is that a lot of people coming through life, from the young generations to the working or even some of the older generations, we're always puzzled over how a lot of people do and achieve what it is they do and achieve. So what I've done is put together what would equate to be approximately an hour and a half of video footage which covers things like perspective, circles of social relationships, choices, and various other bits and bobs. Effectively, it all works on a timeline. It covers a lot of taboo subjects, taboo matters, how society is being built up, be it through academic information, so valid information, through to disinformation or misinterpretation of the original information, through to creating, well, your very own understanding of what's going on around you in the world, be it society, be it education, economics, law, politics. Whatever the spectrum, what you're about to see covers all of that. Once you've seen the structure, you'll be able to see, understand, and draw out the principal functions that lie behind the examples, and then apply them to other things. So it's quite literally a universal method or understanding or perspective in which to work with. From this, there'll be other videos that come forward, and these basics are all free. More so because I just want to help. The idea is that a lot of people are struggling to get through. They're failing to understand the whys and the what fors, and there's a lot of controversy about it. A lot of speculation, a lot of spoof stuff, a lot of conspiracies, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to draw out and create all that information and create a clear line of understanding for people to work with. So, okay, on to the first step. Okay, so that was the introduction. As you'll see now, this is the dashboard in which we're going to work with. What's also worth remembering at this stage, and if you haven't spotted it already, is that this is accessible to you also. Okay, it's an Excel document. It's worked out and broken down into 5 tabs, as I was mentioning before. As you can see here: perspective, choices, circles, problems, and education. Now, we're going to try and cover this within inside an hour and a half or thereabouts, with each one equating to approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so an hour and a half if we do 15 minutes at a go. Also, you'll find, as I will moving through, is that I'll be reading from a document that you will also have access to online. Effectively, what you're being presented with is an opportunity to look at everything that's been done so far. or everything that is being done so far and that you're about to go through, which basically means instead of just having the video and listening to the video, you can have a play around with the document yourself, have a read through the information, and effectively build on it for yourself. Okay? Our first one is a matter of perspective, or is perspectives, and as a matter of perspective, you're here for a reason. Whatever that reason may be, I'm not one to question that reason, but you're obviously looking for something. You've either been referred here or you've made your own way here. Yeah? Life in itself holds a mass amount of mysteries, and it does. There's a lot of information span out right across the internet. So from my own perspective, I've pulled a lot of the information together to create a clear line of understanding. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. You can either utilize it or not. It's free. Yeah? It's for your benefit and whoever else wishes to use it. But be forewarned, there are a few taboo subjects in here. We do go down both a metaphysical and a kind of a scientific path, so we will be touching on some faiths as well as more psychological, scientific approaches. Okay? Everything is not matter of fact per se. 90% of it is fact, but the rest is a matter of perspective. It's the way it's been pieced together, which makes it different from everything else. Yeah? Furthermore, the best thing about this is it doesn't conflict as such or otherwise attempt to go against other aspects such as motivational speakers and whatnot. Some of you that are here may have actually found some of these motivation videos from some rather popular motivational speakers. The idea is effectively it complements that. Not only does it complement it, it takes that and then starts to break it down for you. So rather than listening to just simple motivational drive and seeing perhaps relative videos or video clips of what that person's interpreting their drive as, we're going to break it down just a little bit more. We're going to give you the raw information behind it all. Right? So as I was saying, most of it now has become fact. That perspective that you have in life will steer or otherwise determine the direction you head in, or the place where you end up. Whilst perceivably you may feel that you're being illogical, if you're not careful or otherwise are too random, and don't pay attention to your surroundings as well as those involved, you will undoubtedly end up and acting in quite the manner you've tried to avoid in the first place. Being random and making no sense. In turn, your life goes everywhere. If not, nowhere. Okay, so let's go into our first one. Perspectives. Right. Throughout you will notice there is a familiar pattern. I've utilised particular, shall we say, methods to keep it consistent. Now what I was talking about, logic and random, is this table here, in the top left. Okay? If you look a bit closer, you'll see there's a flow to it. Okay? Breaking it down just a little bit further, we have a matter of perspective, situation, direction, and questions and answers. Now remember that this is the basics. It's for you to build on this understanding. I will later on in other videos, okay, but as it stands, everything starts from a question. Yeah? More so the learning. And if it's not necessarily starting from a question, it's from somebody giving their input. So it's answers, it's information. Now this within itself will eventually create a perspective on the world, be it your world, be it somebody else's world, or the world at large. Okay? You'll have seen it right throughout your history lessons, right throughout history in itself, that the information fed into society or any other sector will generate a perspective. That perspective in itself, based on that information, will create a particular situation. That particular situation relates to these down here on the left hand side, and that's what we're going to make our way through. That situation within itself, based on the perspective, based on the information that you have, will in turn create a direction. It is true to its form that the future isn't written as such. 90% of it is not. We'll use mathematical logic or marketing logic, in some scientific aspects of 80-20. 80% of life is not actually written already, or rather 80% of the future of all of our lives is not written already. Right? It's a blank canvas. It is a book without content. Right? The other 20% is broken up into these areas. This is other people. Yeah? This is people like me, for instance. What I'm doing is creating information for you to work with. What you do with that information is again is up to you, which forms part of the 80%. So this is the 20%. All of this here is the 20%. That 20% then, or otherwise the whole 100%, is broken down into 4 other aspects, such as logic, random, self, and another. And when you actually look at them a bit closer, allow them to float on your mind, and you think to yourself about the world at large, you, or even your family, what you're actually looking at is you've got a choice of being quite logic, take a logical path, or it's quite random. Much the same as the scientific discussions go, as in the world, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. Is it all random, or is it actually logic? Has it been put together in a particular fashion for a particular reason? Or has it just all come together? Now, in most cases than none, it would in fact be fair to say that it's both. And the reason for that is, whilst nature in itself can be deemed as random, i.e. for instance from the spark, things happen, which is defined as being random. But then you have cause and effect. Cause and effect within itself then creates a logical path. If this happens, this will happen. To the point where we get to a planet, the creation of a planet, which in itself can be deemed as being random. To the point where we look at the colonization of the planet, be it prehistoric dinosaurs right through to ourselves. Whilst it started in a rather random nature, it progressively became logical. And you're here. To the point where 80% of the world is still random and unwritten, and 20% of it is being constructed, which then influences that 80% to then keep creating a cycle. Okay? How that happens, be it from yourself or be it from another. Okay? We can say or another, but by the time you're finished, what you've actually got is you and everybody else, which that everybody else is definable as another person. Yeah? So logic, random, self, another. Within that itself, you have particular paths. So based on the question itself, or answers, and the situation, depending on where it's coming from, or the intention, it can either be indirect, direct, non-linear, or linear. And then throughout, it's relative of the terms. Yeah? By the time you've constructed all of this together, you again get your situation and direction. Yeah? So as you can see there, it's in two parts. Question and answer create a new perspective. That perspective creates a situation and a direction in which you travel. Okay? Okay, floating through this a bit quicker. Remember, this video is here for you to keep replaying. The Excel document is there for you to work with. Right, okay, number one is our first one. Taking everything that I've just said to you, we could do this, we'll start from the question basically, and we'll start from a question of what do you see? Okay. For the most, it will seem quite, if not illogical, a reasonable question. However, without a particular context in which to frame the question, it could mean just about anything. Now as it stands, let's have a walk through some examples of what to expect. Okay? Don't want to cheat, but like I said, we'll skip through. It's there for you to play with. Okay? What do you see? One. One what? This is what everybody else or those who are participating are actually saying. Yeah? What do you see? One. One. Eh? Yes, to you, someone had to say it. Yes, so somebody's in agreement with what we're not certain of at the moment. What do you see? One, well, them, or in this case, another. In circles. So somebody's being literal. So what do you see? One, well, circles. Yeah. For those with the yes, it could mean itself, the questionnaire, or even the perimeter. It could mean just about anything. Yeah. Otherwise, and based on the question type, are they being specific according to their perspective? While 6 could share a similar approach to others, or even copying, and in this case, where I've put in brackets here, copying can be defined as being uncertain. Yeah? So, one or the other. Yeah? Either shares a similar approach, or it's uncertainty, so therefore, they've chosen to copy. But again, it can mean something completely different. Now remember, this is I've put these numbers in. So you can work with them. Yeah? We're going to skip through. In this instance, yes could mean if not one, but two things. They know there are 8 of them, or there are 8 others. And given the question, both would in theory be right. And what do you see? 8. 8 what? It's still the question, isn't it? Yeah? Okay. So, what we can do is do that. What do you see? Make it more specific. But it's still in itself is a little random because effectively everybody actually has an answer from their own perspective. What do you see? Number 1 says you. Number 2 says gold. 3 says people. 6 says circles. And they each just having a bit of a chuckle. Do you reckon people are beginning to cotton on? Are you beginning to see them? Yeah. Okay. So let's move down to the second one. Now let's have a play with a more specific question. Yeah. As we move through the numeric cycle, we can see what could be deemed as a more appropriate answer. And as the question has been framed better, well, more so because the question has been framed better. Once everyone is on the same hymn sheet, there is still room for some to have a little fun. So let's see where that may be. But again, some of the answers are still the same. Because what we're doing in the middle is just generally, people have come to understand generally what the question means. How many circles? Are there 1? Are there 2? Are there 3? Are there 4? 4. How many circles? 4. Okay. So again, we can see a slight interpretation of what that would mean. Okay. Right through to, we can do that. These are the top here, look, as you can see they're emboldened. These are signifying thought. So some people have already got their ideas as to what's going on. Everybody seems to agree on that one. Again, the same thing, it could mean one of two things. But quickly say to yourself, how many circles are there? Is there 8 or 9? Or even 10? 10. Because we put the question mark in, how many circles? How many circles are there? And people are now more inclined to answer because they're much more certain. Yeah? And 10 being the answer, and for those who are not certain as to why it's 10, the first one, plus 8, making 9. And as you'll have seen throughout the environment of the perimeter, so we've got 9, and that makes 10. Yeah. So, in a manner of speaking, or in most cases than none, it actually makes sense. It's now becoming logical, rather than being random. Okay? It's direct, it's linear, it's specific, it makes sense. It's logical. Right, whilst the questions themselves and in themselves are suitable enough examples, this in fact is applicable to many other variations of understanding, or rather, if we were to draw the self and same principles out that are sat behind the questions, remember what I was saying in the introduction? What we start to see is such motivational statements as know where you are and where you want or need to be. Okay? Know where you are, point 1. Know where you want to be, point 2. Okay? That in itself starts to frame an understanding. It starts to become logical. Yeah? Because what you're actually doing is creating context. Knowing where you are in life and where you want to be in life. Again, most people will know this, but never realise the impact that it has on their lives by not knowing. Yeah? Which then leads us on to our second. From this knowing of where you are, there's one thing. However, we can break this down further by stating, know what is happening around you and what you need to achieve. Now this part does escape people, because it's all good and well knowing where you are. Everybody can say, well, I know where I am. Well, I'm sat here. Yeah? Where do I want to be? Well, who knows? Unless I actually specify it. Answer that question. Depending on what type of time frame I wish to place on it, I'd like to be producing more of these videos and being of more help to people. Okay? The question in itself, know what is happening. Well, I'm now actually creating this video, and I know what I need to do is create more and do more research, and then place more out there. To some, it may seem rather simple, To others, it's kind of like, oh yeah. But that context, that frame, you need to maintain it. It's not just a one-hit wonder. Alright, granted, if you think about it enough, your brain will record that information, but a lot of the time it gets made redundant. It gets sent to the back, into the long-term memory, where it's then forgotten about. Okay? The upshot of it all is, for the uninitiated, what this means is, at some given time you will have come across a not so familiar expression known as cosmic ordering, and for others astral planing, meditation, and for others, well, it could well be you have been introduced to tarot reading, and for everyone else, it's PMA, or positive mental attitude. Now those actually become relevant because each one of them is representative or otherwise is an outcome of your life, or otherwise requires for you within your life to be more specific. You need to know where you are and where you want to be, and then answers will be born from that. Okay? So as it stands, whether it's metaphysics or simple motivational speeches, what is being asked of you is, or rather what you are being taught, besides that riveting conversation, is be specific. Yeah? Specificity. Right? Be to the point. You need to be specific within all of this, because if you're not, then how are you going to be able to determine how it's going to work out? Yeah? The more random you are, the less focused you will be. And that is what it's about, isn't it? It's being focused. And the only way you can do that is by paying attention. Okay? Pay attention. Right. Whilst it can be said, don't worry too much about who's responsible at the moment, as you will need to be ready to accept responsibility later on. Alright? And if you are the cause, that's if you're the cause, that is, of your particular situation. Therefore, knowing where you are indicates that you know, understand, and accept your current position in life. Right? Whilst I say accept your current position in life, it's not necessarily accepting your position in life per se, end of story. What it means is that you recognize where you are. You accept it for it being what it is. Therefore, you can then move on to the next step from that. Yeah? So your current position in life, we are able to then move on to the detailing of how you have arrived here, and then where you want to be, and in some cases, where you should be. To give you a couple of final examples of how that actually works. So far, at this point of the presentation, this within its entirety is known as being specific. You've seen the Marvel films, right? The one I've got marked down here as being specific is X-Men 2. Right? And within X-Men 2, do you remember the Nightcrawler? For those who have seen it? Yeah? Good. For those who haven't, there's a character in there known as the Nightcrawler. The Nightcrawler, on the first instance, is quite a bad character. But at the same token, it's not. After people are more specific with their questions, they discover that it's not. And within all of that questioning, they also uncover something else. How does he do what he does? I need to know where I'm going in order to get there successfully, and not end up in a wall. Yeah. Furthermore, whilst faith is a powerful tool and a motivator in itself, and yes, would encourage anyone to have more of it, in other words, having faith, whether it's in yourself, whether it's in other people, or as in a collective of people, having faith, right? Faith in itself will not wholly work on its earn or to simply achieve what you want to achieve. Right? And if I give you an example of that one and how that actually works, if you use an example surrounding Mother Teresa's journey, she knew what her problem was. She knew what needed to be done. By being specific and understanding within her faith, the problem was resolved. Yeah? By the time you've finished, just pay attention and be specific. You know where you are, where you want to be, then by the time you're fit and by the time you've got them, you can then work on what you need to do. Okay, if you need to go back through, now's the ideal time. But what we're going to do is move on to the next step. Okay, we've now moved on to choices. Now, choices in themselves, of this particular slide, actually comes in two parts. That's choices and their internal influences, and choices and their external influences. Internal being basically you, or even those close to you, and external are those of another, somebody outside maybe of your circle. Now, as you'll have noticed, and given the fact that there is a world full of examples that I could be used, such as everything from food, clothing, partner, home, electronics, holiday, or even party politics. Okay. Now, this has been structured into a voting system. This is a virtual voting system, but it's not actually designed by any means of the imagination to steer your understanding towards one particular party or another. Not at all. We're using this example primarily because it shows the consequences surrounding choice. Yeah? Now, consequences, be it good or bad, again, is a matter of perspective, yeah, as we was mentioning in the previous slide. However, even whilst it is a matter of perspective, it is quite literally the impact. Yeah? And as you can see, we've created 4 boxes within this. Each have a letter in it, and this relates to those positioned around and within the circle. So first off, we've got group 1. We've got group 2, each related to a table. This is the 4 boxes I was talking about. Now, in context of working environments, be it scientific, be it academic, whatever the realm, this is known as a controlled source. And we're using this as this control source to be able to exemplify more specifically what happens. Okay? Now remember, it is a matter of perspective, right, which now and in itself will influence your choice based on another's actions. Therefore, what you're going to see here is an example of cause and effect. Okay? The cause being someone's prior actions and or decisions being made, and the effect being someone else supporting them according to a shared opinion. Okay? So, if I was to take one of these letters here, I've also got another box down here. So what we are going to do is start our voting. As you can see here in group 1, everybody is in actual fact voted for themselves. This is known as a pirate's vote. You'll have seen Pirates of the Caribbean? Okay? I think it's on Stranger Tides, is it? I can't remember which one it is now, but they're around the table, we call a pirates meeting, and call for a vote to select a pirate king. Yeah? And everybody effectively votes for themselves, barring one person. Right? There's your pirate vote, creating a stalemate. But as with the example, in this group, somebody has indeed voted for one other person. So what we've got is a scenario where one needs to revote, and 1 selected a winner. Okay. Now, when you're actually looking at this can steer whole manners of scenarios, as in, for instance, the recent examples of referendums. Okay? How it becomes relevant is when you start looking at, within the cause and effect scenario, you're looking at pros and cons. So let's say, for instance, H witnessed what A was doing, or 1 was doing in the last round. And let's say C did the same thing. Okay? Them 2 additional votes, in this case we can call them a vote of confidence based on what 1 was doing, has created a win for them. Win for A. Okay? If we do that the same for group 2, but in this case replacing B, B wins. In spite of the fact that B may have actually voted for A. Yeah. So like I was saying before with the outer circle's initial thoughts, apparently something's going on here. Yeah. So we can work this out in many different ways. We'll call it control, because we can work out how things are panning out. So with that decision itself, A wins in both groups. Everybody happy with it? Seems that way. What if we call it cheat? Ooh, G's decided to change their mind. But thankfully, in this regard, it's not caused any further conflict. But it is rather unified and symmetrical. So within them choices themselves, the negative aspect is this. Yeah? The positive is this. These are the most influential bodies. Yeah? And it steers the vote. But this is all internal. This is more, shall we say, defined more as a democratic state based on the choices are being formed from the individuals themselves. Yeah? So as I said, we can use that example for across many other things, such as clothing, and I more likely will put more examples, working examples, in at a later date. We'll stick with this one, but again, it can be applied to things like clothing, which is again a matter of perspective based on style. Yeah? Fruit based on its nutritional value, or food in general based on its nutritional value. The home that you choose to live in based on form and function. Yeah? The partner you choose, highly subjective, but it could be down to characteristics. Right? Particular characteristics, particular appearance, smell maybe, or the way they dress and what they eat. Yeah? Whether they have a shared understanding as to form and function of a house. Who knows? Electronics, again, form and function. What can it offer you? The same with party politics. Again, we're not going to go too far into that. And the same with holidays. Whereabouts you're going to go? What can it offer you? Is it part of your liking? And so on and so forth. All of these bits of information helps you make a decision. It forms part of your perspective on the world, especially once you've interacted with it. So therefore you get cause and effect. Also becomes relevant when you're talking about motivational side of stuff, of knowing where you are and where you want to be. Because in this instance, if we construct the foundations already and you have your home and your partner already, right, you know where you are. The both of you know that you want to go on holiday. Okay? The parts in the middle of all of that, as a part of the choices, we can also introduce work. Right? So how do we get from here to here? Do we need to continue to work on where we are to be able to get where we're going? Or do we need to add in additional stepping stones to be able to get there? In this case, let's say for instance, it is a job. Yeah? A job generates a much greater level of income. And already it's that holiday is looking more obvious. It's more of a matter of fact, it's going to happen, right? Because you know where you are, you've fixated your view on where you want to be, and you know how to get there. Bit of an example. Now, because there are external factors to even that type of choice itself, this is where we come on to this example. Right? Self and same setup, group 1, group 2. Yeah, see it? The voting board, group 1 and group 2. We've got our trigger here, but the difference being there's no control group here. But this time what we've got is an additional or different type of control group. Now some of you will know what the whip system is within politics. Others, effectively, is people who encourage votes. Okay? Encourage other people to vote. So this is not just about what you've observed, as in the first round. Right? For those who you've observed in the first round, this is about what these want to happen. Right? So in the first instance, we have our first vote. Everybody start. We've got our pirates vote. Shall we use a whip? No? Some people have decided to look at their own ideas. Yeah? Which in turn has created an outcome. Yeah? G is winner and H is winner. Yeah? If we whip it, we got A, D, D, C. The votes are looking very different now. Yeah? Those who won originally are no longer winners. Now it's B, now it's D. Yeah? We'll take that out. It could be all copacetic. Everybody could be happy with it. Yeah? Some people have still got their own ideas. In some instances, influencing the other circle is influencing the other. Or one group is influencing the other group. Yeah? Why that is? Ooh. Something's going on. Somebody's decided to continue to create their input, which has steered the vote. Again, it's known as cheating. External influences for you. Okay? Internal and external. A lot of what we do in our own lives is governed based on our own perspective, based on the questions that we ask, the answers that we get. It's based on our circumstances. If we have an influence from the external environment, is it what we want or isn't it? Yeah? Some would say, I'm the kind of whipping system. Yeah? Or, indeed, I could be like, for instance, within the first round, the perspective, I'm just simply the questioner. Giving you answers for which to work with. So, you don't, in yourself, need to worry about cheating. The upshot of it all is you are not. When you're listening to other people offering advice, if it's to better serve your needs as well as without infringing on somebody else's, then it can't be wrong, can it? Because everybody in one capacity or another, whether it's lesser or greater, now that's something else. That will be determined, if yours is greater than theirs, that will be determined based on the level of input or level of action you apply to it, the level of effect that you place into your situation. As long as it's not needlessly taken from somebody else, if it's willful, then that's something else. So again, it all forms part of the choices. Then choices that you make are governed based on your perspective. It's based on what you've been taught. Okay? How are you finding it so far? It's all coming together, isn't it? By the time you've finished, you're now beginning to create a nice tidy understanding. If need be, grab yourself a pen and paper and map it out. Yeah? Build this up for yourself. Yeah? Draw your own understanding as to what is going on here. Remember, draw the principles of this out. It can be applied to anything you want to apply it to. Yeah? Just remember, pay attention, be specific, and know what it is you want to happen. Yeah? Okay. Let's move on to our next one. And this one is circles. Okay, welcome to our next section. The next section is basically drawing circles. I don't mean just drawing circles, I'm talking about the psychological aspect of drawing circles. It is not a well-known understanding, but it is known amongst, shall we say, other tribes, some more of the older tribes. And what drawing circles in its principal understanding means is that some will draw circles around themselves, some will draw circles around not only themselves but their family, some will then around their friends, colleagues, and then there are others with much larger circles. In principle, again, what that actually means is it's your level of focus, yeah? Your level of interest with other people or for other people. Okay? Now that within itself, and principally understood right throughout time, is what defines leaders. Yeah? It's what defines being a partner with somebody, to the point of being a family and having more friends. All of that is a derivative of what we are taught. Okay? Based on and it's also based on our level of confidence. Yeah? Or self-confidence. Without the teachings of others, and from the first instance, then we're not going to know about other people and how they act and react. That in itself is broken down into 3 particular sections, as you can see here. One of them being is a level of awareness, which governs your path, as we're saying here. Okay. It's about the mindset, or the development which creates your mindset. So the development from your level of awareness, which is your mindset. And then basically your actions is done through living life itself. And by the time you've finished, each one relates to the next. Yeah? Your path is governed by your mindset and your actions. Yeah? It is quite literally a tripart model, or a tripartite model. Yeah? Now, this again is a matter of perspective. It's also based on choices, and the choices that we make, whether it be from ourselves to others, as you can see, groupings forming, to much larger circles and much larger circles again. And it also is relevant to perspectives table, the one up in the top left hand corner. So for those who are not certain and want to go backtrack, quickly head off back now, and we'll come back here and have a look again. Yeah. So effectively, this is about not only you, it's about the other people that are watching the videos. As you can see here, like for instance, in the first slide and in the second slide, the third slide is more people. We're looking at actions and reactions, the choices of others now, because there's more people becoming involved. But what we're going to start doing now is show you how this is all brought together in a socially orientated environment. But in order to do this, and as you'll have noticed throughout, we've effectively been talking about yourself. in yourself about the teachings that you have been taught, and that you will inevitably and eventually, or even the other way around, you will eventually and inevitably teach to others based on your perspective and based on the results of your choices. Okay? Now, effectively, this is all being taught. We teach it to each other, and we do it as we move through life. But as we do this, right, we also uncover particular taboo aspects. Like, for instance, so far, some of you will have picked up on the fact that we have embedded some fictional stuff. I've embedded some factual stuff. Some elements of faith also. Yeah. And right even to politics. Now, politics in itself can also be broken down again into social politics. So it's politics between people. Yeah. Political economics, or politics within economics, and that's the policies and how people expect things to work and so on and so forth. Same with academics, and politics is in colonial politics or national politics. Yeah. It's even within science. Politics is a very broad term in the context of philosophies, expectations, and various principal functions that people expect. Yeah. Now, we use the term self not in a selfish fashion, but more in a self-aware fashion. Okay? Not in a self-loathing fashion, but in a self-appreciation. Okay? Because it's from that actual appreciation, that self-awareness and the awareness of those around us, that we can create the connection between ourselves and other people. Like, for instance, with a particular but a shared belief is, how can you be expected to look after another if you cannot first look after yourself? So this is applicable to everybody. Some people don't want to know about other people, don't want to look after other people. That's fine, that's their choice. But at some given point in time, in that individual's life, you will have to interact with another. Right? And how that happens, how you go about that, will determine the further actions and reactions as you move along that line. Like, for instance, if we break it down, and I've mentioned right from the beginning, and I keep maintaining throughout, you draw the principle understanding out from that, and what you're looking at is basically things like fitness experts, business managers, being a parent or being an adult. Yeah. What we're doing is basically saying within that, how can you expect to look after another if you can't first look after yourself, is coming to understand yourself. And then the other people, once you reach a particular stage, will then teach you how to move on to that next level. Like, for instance, with a fitness expert, to be fit, a fitness expert will teach you how they became fit. The same with a business manager, how they become a manager will teach you that. Being a parent, now this is the taboo aspect. This is the subjective element within it all, and it is defined by the child itself. So it's now defined by, as you see here, the third person. Yeah? The external part of you. Every child is different. However, parenting within itself, principally, is somewhat same. Yeah? Being an adult, what to expect from your elders, what's being expected from you. And all of this forms part of this. Okay? So we start from our upper one. Let's give an example there, look. Self, your self-worth. Replacing actions is about laugh. Yeah? If you're talking from early stages, in the early stages of life, we begin to learn about ourselves and our own worth, whether we like to do something or we don't. We spend most of our time learning to laugh, have a bit of fun. Some people even throughout life want to maintain that. Again, it's subjective, because a lot of people seem to think that life is a bit of a bore. In some ways it could be. And some people just don't think it's not adrenaline packed enough. By the time we've finished and we put all of that together, we end up having people who are committing murders or are just stealing stuff because of the adrenaline. Because they want to maintain this without any preconceived perspective or understanding of the impact of their choices. Yeah. Remember, throughout, if you need to, draw the principles out, jot them down, and see how it will affect. Now, for instance, we were saying before, when we take it to its maximum end, somebody decides to steal this person's car. We could have a knock-on effect here by, let's say, for instance, an accident. And there's more police involved. Somebody gets hurt within that, and it affects somebody else. Yeah. We move on to the second element. Parenting, or family. Parents and family. We learn respect, and we learn love. Love for another, which in turn is why I said about self-love. Because then we're taught also, as a loop back, about what love is, and how to respect ourselves as well as others, which adds to our self-worth, which then in turn adds to our ability to appreciate and have fun within that. Yeah? It all forms part of it. We can move on to the next one. Move on to friends. Yeah. Sharing, again, it's all part of parcel of our youth, but it also stays with us throughout time, throughout our journey. So what we're doing is building an understanding, building a mindset, which then we use to act upon along our path. It also forms part of our perspective and part of our choices we make. Like, for instance, within the economic realms of understanding, or even actually within the home life, never ask someone to do what you would not first do yourself. Yeah. You again draw the principles out of it. In most cases, the none, it actually makes sense so far. Yeah? So additionally, and when teaching development and how to be motivated, we can also find other examples to help you along. More so when we're talking about perspectives, or more so when we're talking about when more people become involved, when we start venturing into the community, whether it be forgiveness or whether it be look and listen around. Because it's safe within our own environment, but when we start venturing into that much bigger, wider world, right, things become very different. More negatives and more positives you have to face. You must face and resolve the negatives in order to create more positives. We all want the world to be positive. We all want the world to work. I mean work in the context that it's being productive, that each of us are working with each other in the way we would like for each other to work with. Yeah? But inevitably something somewhere will go wrong, or a mistake will be made, and that is defined as a negative. And if that's not faced, then that negative will either escalate and grow larger, or will create another negative elsewhere. And much like an infection, it spreads. Yeah? That's what that means. You must face and resolve the negative in order to create more positives. That in turn adds to the weight of choices of another. As we was using within the political aspect of voting, people then see you as being an individual that is not necessarily being negative, because you're actually positive. You're just dealing with the negatives to get more positives. You've got more courage than others. Yeah? To fail and learn from what you fail at is to further succeed at winning. It's all cyclic motions. If you failed, be frightened of it. Learn from it. Why did you fail? Why are you here? Yeah? Why are you here? Something happened, or something is happening, so you're here. Learn from it. Address the negative, Because if you don't address the negative, it will escalate. Right? Address that negative, find the positives, so you've now got pros and cons. Right? Find all the positives and learn why you failed. Because what will happen is if that you have to face that again, or even if it's principally you have to face a situation that is in principle the same as the one you're facing now, you will have a greater understanding as to how to deal with it, and it won't feel so bad. Which then actually leads us on to one final adage or metaphor, which is, if you can bounce back from a fall, then the climb back up becomes easier for bouncing. Yeah? Attitudinal. It's all about mindset. Yeah? So don't be frightened of facing negatives. If you fail at something, learn from it. Because what will inevitably happen is you will then bounce back. It may even actually, like with, say for instance, with reincarnation. Alright, in some beliefs of reincarnation, you step out, which is fall, but then from that, you may bounce up. If from that fall you take a step back, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will never make your way back up again. It may be a little bit more difficult. But when you step back out again, you will then bounce back up again, or it may even happen within that new timeline. Who knows? It's all dependent upon your mindset and your actions. Okay? Look and listen. Which then we can move on. And we link that into what other people are doing. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by communicating them. All loops within itself. You taught all of this at a younger age, but it's then continued to be taught to you throughout. Right? So it creates a collective or otherwise compacted understanding as to how each other work with each other. In order to achieve things, you have to communicate. You know? So they're all interesting metaphors so far, and we're beginning to build up. And believe it or not, they are in fact true to their form. And if you're prepared to look, listen and learn, and then act on them, effectively you will begin to see that they are very much real. Now we can open up other cans of worms, like we was talking about before, about on the faith realms, or the metaphysical realms. Yeah? There are other adages in there that basically try to steer us away from harm, or try to help us to find the truth. And that one in itself is spread right throughout the planet. This term of understanding, or this particular understanding, is worldwide, within the faith aspects itself, taught right throughout. And it's about learning, teaching about what other people have been doing, whether it be through time or whether it's from somebody from another side of the planet, and then offering something in return, or even if it's just support, like for instance what happens across in India for earthquakes. Yeah. The populace, we learn about what's going on, and we either make an offering or in some regards may try and support them the best that we can, which is also part of the sharing. It's respect for life, and if you have any self-worth in the regards of understanding of what it'd be like for you if you was in that situation, we create a cyclic loop. Yeah. So by the time we've finished, some of those who were the curious ones, no problem whatsoever, you'll have noticed the colour in the middle. You'll have also noticed that there's 3 columns of 6. Some have even speculated so far with 666. It's not good, is it? But we can use the example of that understanding, of that perspective, as, and from the fables, as the devil is found in the detail. And we're trying to try to be warned away from that, just in case it harms us, or the devil harms us. Okay? It's a matter of perspective again. So for the rest of this exercise, I'm the devil. Alright? Alright? And you can blame me for your mistakes if you want. I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you've done. So by the time we've finished, right, or you can just simply tell me about them. And we can learn together who's at fault, whether it's you or whether it's somebody else. Personally, I don't want you so. It's, in a manner of speaking, of no use to me. It's worth a great deal. Of course it is. But it's no real use to me. So you can keep it. What we're going to do is learn how to make it work for you. Yeah? How you can work better for yourself and then for others. Yeah? So basically, as you can see already, again, reinforcing it, it's a matter of perspective. That perspective is based upon your understanding of the world around you, and therefore in turn governs the type of choices that you make, leading you to a final outcome. Remembering 80% of your future is not even written. Right? That part is not fact. We're just using that from, shall we say, a rule of thumb. Yeah? More of your future may not be written, but we'll use the rule of thumb. And you're writing that 20%, and other people are contributing to the writing of that 20%. Yeah. Right. Now you listen to me waffle on, and you've got this model so far. For those who have seen it in anticipation, there you go. 666. Now, those who are not sure of what it actually means, don't worry about it. Just remain open-minded. Okay? I'm certainly not going to steer you down the wrong path. If you look at it from an economic point of view, I don't benefit from it. But looking at it from a societal point of view, neither will anybody else. Steering you wrong will eventually steer other people wrong. I don't want to steer them wrong as much as, or equally as much as I don't want to steer you wrong. So the idea is, just remain open-minded if you're not sure. For those who disagree with, shall we say, my perspective on this metaphysical understanding, my opinion and my choice would be to say to you, more learning is needed. And interestingly enough, there is more later on in. Okay? For those who agree, you are now, if not already, on a path of personal evolution. Because you're beginning to understand exactly what's being put across to you. You're beginning to feel it inside you. Being in here, you know exactly where this is going, and it's going for betterment. The betterment of not only you, but for those around you. Yeah? That feel good, that positive, knowing that facing them negatives are going to be turned into positives. Only if you learn from them and then act on them. Yeah? Your path will change for the better if you change your mindset, and in turn change your actions. Yeah. Let's move on to our next one, and that's problem solving within itself to help us with all of this. Right, okay, we're going to move on to problem solving in relationships now. Or rather, problem solving and their relationships. So effectively, it's the relationship between your situation and the problem. Okay? The relationship between your choice, or the choices that you've made, and the problem, or rather the effect, is the outcome. The effect and the outcome. As you can see from the last one, some people, well, granted, will have started to play around with the information. And it's from that I can say to you now that once you start looking at the detailing, it's not about the devil's in the detailing, is it? What can be said to you is basically true development is found in the detailing. Yeah. The devil is the fear. Yeah. It's a fear factor. It's what you have to face in that regard in order to be able to find information you need to help you along. I have to sell nothing to nobody. Yeah. The idea is if you've got what it takes, if you are prepared to do what it takes, you will attain whatever it is you need to attain or want to attain. Remember, good reasoning, the reasoning behind it, and the effects of them choices on what it is you want to attain. Yeah. Initially, yes, will it benefit you? But what will it do to other people? Yeah. That understanding is also found within the economic realms. Yeah. Invention and innovation. What will your invention or innovation do or otherwise offer a benefit to other people? Will it offer a benefit to other people? Yeah. So from that, we start to actually look and go to the grain of problem solving. Now, problem solving itself, what I've done here is broken it down into 3 parts. Okay, I'll try and get through them not too quickly, but quick enough so it doesn't become monotonous. Okay, so we need to be able to make sure we can keep the identified problem solution framed properly, so you can address it as and when you need to. Right, and then being how we identify the problem and its roots, or rather where the problem has started from, so that's 2. And then 3, how to create sound reasoning as to how to address a problem. So what we're doing here is, in this one, yeah, to others this is going to be a very familiar one, right? I've not chosen this because I favour it, I've not chosen it to try and promote it, I've chosen it because it's the basics. Right? I'm not going to explain it to you in the context of where it was from, how it was formed, and so on and so forth. This is the appliance of the science. This is framing the problem solving. Yeah? Okay. As some of you will have seen, PDCA, EDCA, plan, do, check, act. In some instances, you can split it into two levels, be it upper or lower, or run it in parallel from do, problem finding, display, clear, acknowledge, back through to check, then act. Yeah? Or it can be used as separate instances. Okay? Right. 1. Plan. Planning. Planning is part and parcel of every step forward. Okay? The same with this business, the same with any other business, the same with politics or any other politician, the same with society, life, the person, and their life path. You plan it out. Now, with this within itself is also part of other videos yet to come. But planning. Plan things out. Do. In this case, we're talking, we framed it as a form of innovation. So in this instance, it would be about the prototypes. Or in your case, what do you want to achieve? Yeah. 3. Check data. Check that what you want to achieve and through your planning, is it working? Yeah. Is it working for you? Does it make sense? So we're applying this to life path now. Does it make sense? More importantly, to you. If it is about innovation, invention and everything else, to others. Act on it, yeah, or action. Yeah? Put it into action now. Yeah? It's created as a cyclic motion, because from that action you should have already planned how you're going to act on it, how you're going to action it, how you're going to roll it out. Yeah? Oops, my apologies. We move on to the other sphere, and we see the problem. What is the problem? So now you can see we can either utilize this as a first step, we can utilize it as a side step, or we can utilize it as an instance on its own. If it's an innovation, why does the innovation exist? Why is the innovation going to exist? Why does your situation exist? You know what it is. What is the problem? And display, which is focus. Display can also be part of your planning, yeah? Or part of the data. It's also part of a cyclic motion, but I place it down as focus. You need to really focus on what the problem is. Now what we're doing is being clear. We're now going to plan it out. So again, as we've done here, we've utilised it as a separate instance. Be clear, so plan it out. Okay? Acknowledging or act on it. Depending on which stage you're at, or depending on how you're actually utilising it, whether it's a side step or whether it's an instance of its own, yeah? Acknowledge the problem. Acknowledge what you've done, acknowledge what you've attempted to do, and it all works, then act on it. So it's a step by step. So as you can see now, you can either merge them as one system of approach, use them separately, or one against the other as a double check method. Yeah? Furthermore, as we begin to move through, they themselves, and for the more meticulous of folk, can be shaped into a much more complex set of processes to be able to learn about what is happening within any given situation that you're faced with. Yeah? We can do this as either cyclic motions, like these are here. So, plan, do, check, act. Do, problem, act, or acknowledge and check. So it's cyclic within itself. Or within itself as problem, display, clear, acknowledge. Or the other way around, it's entirely up to you. Or it could be plan, display, be clear, and act on it. Yeah. So by the time we've finished, we've got cyclic motions. It's whatever suits you. It's patterned. Problem, plan, do, act. Yeah? Acknowledge, display, check, and be clear. Or be clear on it. Or you can do it as that. Problem, acknowledge, display, plan, do, check, clear, and act. Yeah? All derived just from this here. So many ways can be worked out. When we're talking about the cycle or the pattern, it's entirely up to you because it's about personal preference. All you're doing is drawing the principles from it. What you're doing is you're learning a method of approach. You must have a method of approach. Yeah? From your perspective of identifying your problem of where you are and where you want to be. Yeah? And what you're going to do in between. So you're going to plan it out. Yeah? You then need to work on an idea as to how you're going to get there. Or if it works out to be an end product, you're going to have an idea as to what that end product's going to be. So again, you're planning it out. Okay. Then you're going to create your steps along the way. You're going to check it. Does it feel comfortable? Is it going to work for you? What type of cause and effect is that situation going to have on other people? Much the same as your current situation is having on other people. Okay. So planning it out. Now in this instance, the variations are as such. We got OPDCA. And this time we're going a bit deeper. And we're looking at observation. So this is the part we was talking about paying attention. Then the other one, yeah, plan, do, study, which replaces check. So for those again who are looking more at the detailing, yeah, that's what this is for. I'm offering you alternatives, variations to the understanding of how to approach your problem, approach your situation and the outcome that you're wishing to achieve. Alternatives, we can make it a little bit bigger, as in we can work with an OPDSA, which is observation, problem, display, study and act. Or we can refine it slightly and go OPSPA. Yeah? Observation, problem, study, plan and act. See, this in itself offers you even an understanding of how to draw principles out of situations. It doesn't necessarily have to be a problem in this scenario, but I've taken one model, okay, studied it, looked at it, worked it out, and I can create other variations from it. So I'm learning from past experiences, I'm learning from other people's work, and I'm developing on it. Yeah? See, even now, showing you how this works and some of the examples that it works for, showing you that it works. The second part we can move on to, it's a bit more complex. That is the more rudimentary side of things, the more basic side of things. Some may want a little bit more, and that's what we're going to do. Let's move on to the next step. Okay? The next step, it can be broken down into a few different steps, whether it be you, whether you're part of the benefit system, which then leads to employment, whatever the scenario is surrounding you, and whatever your target is. So, effectively and hypothetically, let's say where you are and where you want to be. Yeah? Where you are, it's about you and employment, but you want your own business. So if you're in employment, you want your own business, that you have to identify you. Yeah? It's about you. That's your starting point. The situation is going to be about you. Yeah? It's starting from you. The situation is that's the way you are. That's where you want to be. Can you see it? Yeah? And moving on, further on. It's a cascading scale. It may not even be relevant to you. It may be relevant to somebody else, or something else that is happening within your social circles, within your societal aspects, your view, and so on and so forth. We can make that happen right throughout, even right through to what's happening in today's day in the terms of healthcare. Right, so as you can see in drawing circles, at this point things are now, we need now to be brave enough to be able to face our fears, those pending problems, whatever the form they may take. So it is from here, and if not in the external environment to you, we need to start to explore the internal environment to you. Okay? So the internal environment is you. Okay? So whilst this presentation has a few scenarios already embedded into it, which we have done, and we will expand on them further with you at a later date, which I've mentioned that we will do, these are simply to show you how this will work for you. Yeah? And as a word of caution, we're only touching on the lighter side of the world of issues here. Okay? If people want to know about the darker side of things, then we'll walk that path later on. Or as it says within the faith realms, we'll travel through the valley of shadows with you at a later date. Okay, so we're just going to explain and show you how this works on the lighter side of it all. Okay? Right, what we've got, as I've mentioned, is a new model, as you've seen down here. It is known as the fishbone model. Again, this is not about the model itself, it's not about its history, although I have embedded the history into it as a part of recognition to the individuals who have spent the time to create this. And this I could indeed create more from them, change them, be more adaptive, and so on and so forth. But I thought to myself, the guy who's put the time and effort into this, it's not done too bad a job for what I need it for, so we'll stick with it. Very well. The fishbone model itself is being used in many different industries, such as the service industry, the manufacturing industry, and marketing industry, so we know that the model works. Okay? In some instances, it's a bit like mind mapping, as some may have heard. Yeah? So from this fishbone model, we can explore vast amounts of areas within our lives, ranging from you to employment, business, economics, through to politics and so on, and then start to populate the wishbone as we see fit, yeah, to create, or otherwise to populate, our plan of action. Yeah? So we're going to break it down a bit. So as you've seen already, the PDCA, the PDSA, or all the acronyms in the world, right? The exercise is basically it's refreshing your memories now, and based on perspective and reasoning. The logical table, and we're going to choose a much clearer and linear model to work with. So what I've in fact done is I've drawn out 3 here to show you on this path emanating from you. Yeah. Second one. So we're creating a clear cycle now. But I'm going to choose the final one. Okay? Why? Because for me, that's part of what we were saying before about drawing out the principles of the understanding and then working with it and then developing on it. Yeah? We have observation, problem, or identifying the problem, study it, acknowledge it, acknowledge the outcome and what's happening so far, plan for it, test it, review the results of your tests, adjust it where needed, confirm it. Are you happy the way this is all panning out so far? And act on it. Yeah. The relationship, as we've found throughout, we've been talking about. Yeah. We're looking at the effect, the problem, and B, the cause. Yeah. So, cause and effect. We're using the process of it all, and we're breaking it down. Yeah. Right. Observation, situation or environment. What is happening? Does a problem exist? First and foremost. The problem, the effect. What is the problem? Cause. How has the problem come about? That is what you're looking at there. How has the problem come about? We can go into the study of it from the identification of the problem and basically the observation, or from our observations we can now break it down just that little bit further. For instance, the equipment, process, people, materials, environment, management. Right? If we look at these here, it's all contributory. And it's a bit like a mind map in some cases. What is the primary cause, if one exists? And if there's a primary cause, does it go deeper? Is there a secondary cause? So what you're actually doing now is digging deep. This is why I was saying, facing the devil. What is the problem? What is causing it? Yeah? For me, based on the example before, I'm just acting as your secure pillar, as your secure post in which to anchor onto and feel safe and secure to go out and have a look. Okay, if you feel comfortable to. Is it due, when we're talking about equipment, is it due to anything physical? Processes, is it due to something you are or another is doing? And you can read all of these online. Now is it for people? Now is it for now it is from this point you will really need to face your fears, because it is you that is the cause of your problems. And I don't, especially if it, the best way of putting it is, let's say you've identified you as being the cause of your problems. Yeah? And I don't mean your existence. Okay? So before you start going down that path, the answer is no. It's not about your existence per se. More so because this is a pure excuse, a poor excuse of getting out of resolving that all-important problem to help you move on. Okay? Or is it someone else in your life which just seems to be always eluding you from every step you take? And if so, find them and reach a resolve that is amicable for everybody involved. And as a word of caution for you, don't blindside yourself out of the resolve. Remember, you are the one that needs a problem solving. Yeah? Otherwise, forget about them and just move on. Forget about it. Yeah? Ditch the worry. I'll use an example for that for you, and how easy it is based on consumption of food. You take in a situation, or food, you take that in. Your body processes it. Yeah? So you take in the problem, you process it. You draw from it what you need. Yeah? And if there's stuff left over that you don't need, what does your body do with it? Ditch it. Get rid of it. It doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about popping them off. I'm talking about if they're eluding you and you know what the problem is, but you can't necessarily do anything about it, ignore them. Get rid of them out of your life if they're causing you a problem. Even if it's just they're there. You've just chosen the wrong person to be around. Yeah? As long as it's not going to make the problem worse, which then brings us back to the beginning, you find an amicable resolve. Yeah? Materials, being more about the product development in a business, is something that you are using perhaps. Environment. Now we start to frame the problem as we begin to revisit the observational stage again. What about the environment or situation? Is it adequately set up for you? And if not, why not? So we're self-checking, aren't we? We're around this adjust period. Yeah? Review and adjust. So we keep going back to a point where we can action our plan, which basically is when we come back down to the management. This section encourages you to re-examine and re-evaluate point 3 again. Yeah? So people. Yeah? And if you're not the head of your house or business, even if you are, is there something that you are or are not doing that you should or should not be doing? Yeah. So it's relevant to the next. And by the time you've finished, then you've got a clear understanding of the first steps in your action. And from this point, it's worth remarking, if you have any problems with working through this yourself, then ask someone who you know you can trust. Or come to us once you've reached the end of this presentation, and we'll be more than happy to help you through it. Furthermore, whilst we have offered you these headings in the two models, you can change them to better suit you. So these headings may not be relevant to you. Okay? You can change them if you want to. So again, pen and paper, just map them out. Yeah? Now, in the privacy of your own home, allot some time for yourself, anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes, and lay all your cards on the table. And I mean, really mean, lay all your cards on the table and hash it out to find the cause of your problem. Be brave, you can do it. I know you can do it. Okay? Now what we're going to do is look at the pros and cons. Once we've identified them all, we're going to look through the pros and cons. We'll create a pros and cons checklist, which you'll see in this forming down here. Okay? And effectively, and in this case, we're going to use it for the process of reasoning once we've found the problems. Yeah? You have to be realistic about how you measure your pros against your cons, or vice versa. Yeah? As it stands, from here you'll begin to see your problem. You'll see if the problem is a problem, or if it needs resolving and how. Furthermore, it could simply just be the norm, just a norm that you've lost track of, or you have been subject to disinformation, as we were saying from the beginning. And whilst we could use and explore the basics surrounding examples such as drink, drugs, PTSD, and others to boot, here we're going to choose sex. Right? But again, it's the lighter side of things. So don't get me wrong. Right? There are worst case scenarios. Yeah? But we're going to choose sex. We're going to look at this being the issue or the problem, and we have our pros and cons. Right? We've generated all of our information. We've worked through everything so far. We're now going to explore it. Right, well, you've also got to remember is that your level or amount of understanding, your inhibitions or fear, will in fact determine the perspective you have or use for any given subject presented. Yeah? Remember that. In this instance, your level of inhibitions will determine the perspective on the subject itself. So you might feel a little bit uncomfortable right about now. Yeah? If you're with other people and you don't want to watch this around them, fine. Find a space for yourself, like we were saying a moment ago, about finding yourself half hour to an hour, and then work through it. Right, you can mix and match these in any way that you want. Okay? It's dirty. Okay? But then it's actually natural. To come to better understand that, explore the world of nature. And trust me, it will reinforce that it's natural and it's not as dirty as you think it is. It's messy, as in the other version of dirty. Yeah? Well, let's stay clean. It's about your personal health. It's about the routines that you create. Yeah? It's about utilising, let's say for instance, contraception, which is part of the other side to being messy. Yeah? Cheating, it leads to cheating. Yeah? People always fear cheating because of sex. Now, if you've not committed yourself to anybody, then if you're going to classify that individual that you've slept with as being a cheater, then you've naturally created, shall we say, a perspective, an environment in your mind where you actually believe that that person has partnered up with you. You need to make sure that there is an agreement there. If you're in a relationship, then it's about love and loyalty, as we were saying before, underneath circles. Yeah? About learning about love and loyalty, whether it be yourself or be it the other person. You will then need to just simply work on your relationship if it is leading to this, or you believe it's going to lead to that. Work on your relationship. Yeah? It's scary. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not trying to encourage people to go along and do it, and especially if minors are watching this, be forewarned, there is a legal age limit. And there is a legal age limit for a reason. Right? It's not about that we don't want you to do it. It's not about we don't want you to experience it. What it's actually about is that it changes what goes on up here. And if you've not ventured down that path properly, it will warp your view of the world around you and possibly even warp the view of you. I mean that seriously. There's more to this than actually meets the eye. And no, you're not being taught all of this, because a lot of people find this a bit of a taboo subject. Taboo basically meaning I don't really want to talk about it. Yeah? If those who don't want to talk about it, then don't approach them. Learn more about it and go to people who you can trust. Those who are a bit more open about it, but not too, shall we say, flippant or too, shall we say, disrespectful towards it. Find somebody who is neutral. Yeah? And they will tell you about this. Even if you want to explore down the faith avenue, they will certainly give you, if not a rudimentary, a basic view on it all. They will certainly show you the lighter side of it all. You know? But if you're scared and you are of age, just learn a bit more about it. Look around and ask questions. Face your fears if you do want to try it. Yeah? I could probably go into a little bit more. Okay. For those who are asking, some people do believe, in fact, how can I best generalise this for you? To begin with, it feels like it's hurting. But when you relax and you don't struggle through fear, this is, right? That's when the pleasure kicks in, because your brain reprograms what's going on downstairs. That's for both male and female. Okay, it's more impacting for females because of the design of your body. Yeah. But remember, and we'll say this, you do this when you are ready. Don't let anybody force you into it. Yeah? Because if you do it wrong, and you do it at the inappropriate time, or do it in the wrong way, or with the wrong person, it will warp your perspective. Whether it be on yourself, or whether it be life in general, or even actually other people. Yeah? But do not fear it. Right? Learn more about it if you feel that's what's needed. Okay? But it leads to violence. No, well, yes, in some instances it does. It can lead to violence because of the lack of respect and a lack of distance. Failing that, you've chosen the wrong partner, or otherwise they or yourself have the wrong perspective on it. Right? You've basically ventured down that path and you've created this world of understanding where it's frustrating and it's not being satisfactory enough of some description or another, and let's adult films, porn, right? Very seldom do people, especially of the violent side of things or the cheating, very seldom do people are people able to define the line or find the line between what is reality and what is just sheer entertainment. The film being entertainment, it's about the principle, it's about the act itself, formed into entertainment for others to join in with their partner. So it's about you and your partner. Yeah? If you have a self-respect, you found your routine, you know and understand what's going on and everything, then you will realise that it is just for sheer entertainment value. If you've become violent about it and you expect far more from that act, then you have either chosen the wrong partner, you have a warped perspective on reality, or you've just not simply realised that there is quite literally a dividing line between the two environments, and that not everybody is going to be open to what that film is representing. Yeah? So you need to be clear. This is for those who are on the violent side. Yeah? Be clear in your own understanding. For those who are on the opposite side, is be clear on the understanding of the type of partner you've chosen. Don't be scared of leaving that individual if you are on the receiving end of the violence. Okay? What can be said, and I'm sure there are many other people who could reverse it better. Right, it's indignified, indignant, or however you wish to place it. Is it, if indeed you understand what self-worth is, or what self-confidence is? Yeah? If you've gone through this whole process, dignity is no more than a warped perspective of what you're doing, because it is natural. Indignity, or lack of self-worth, is a derivative of fear. Therefore, in itself, you need to learn more about you, which then arcs you back to the beginning about exploring the nature of the natural world. Yeah? So I hope that part within itself, the pros and cons, the actual identifying the problem, we're going through a process. We can go through a planning of it all. Yeah? We identify what the problem is. We have a look for some solutions. We work out the pros and cons, the positives and the negatives. And then by the time we've actually finished, we find our reasoning. Yeah? How we go about that, okay, is the usual method. It's through the process of attraction. Yeah? Being attracted to the other person. If you're not attracted to the other person, then don't follow it. Yeah? Don't pursue it. If you're only aiming for a one-night stand, then yes, be prepared to be treated the way you will be. However, if it's in a violent fashion, then learn about people, learn about their motives, and so on and so forth. Yeah? They will create early warnings for you. Yeah? It is hard, it is difficult, but don't fear it. Remember, this is for those who feel as though they fall within that catchment. This is not for everybody. Others, you may feel fine with it all, and that being the case, then it is you guys, or you people, you ladies and gents, that these people need to turn to, because you're obviously getting it right. Yeah? So be there for them. It's the same with the rest of the content of this video prior to this slide. If you feel as though you know, understand, appreciate and can work this, and you know somebody who can't, be the one that they trust. Yeah? Be the one that they trust, that you can then decipher all of this and then perhaps translate it into a way that is best suits them, that I've not been able to translate into. Yeah? So help me to help you to help them, or you help me to help them. Yeah? That's what this is about. Are there circles? Yeah. By the time we're finished, effectively, fear and failure is what it all amounts to. The 3 C's of life, it can be laid out in many different ways. Fearing failure, or failing to face your fears, will lead to needless failure. Have clarity, courage and commitment. If I was to give one final example, such as PTSD, and whilst I'm certainly not qualified in the context of psychology, and I would never profess to be so, if I look at it from a war aspect, I have had many conversations with people in the past, and have been part of the military also. I came across one particular question: why them and not me? Right? Because the reason for that is because the amount of death that people witness. For those who have already answered the question for themselves, for those who haven't figured the answer out, I laid it out in 3 words for you, or for them. And for you, there's 3 words also. Sea. Like the sea. Go with the flow. Skill, experience, attitude. Why them and not you? Skill, experience, attitude. Right? Everything that you've seen so far is a result of skill, experience, attitude. Everything that you've seen so far will result in skill, experience, attitude. The understanding is perspective. It's about paying attention. Skill, experience, attitude. Yeah? Everything that you will ever do, skill, experience, attitude. There is a 4th one, but that is, shall we say, for a later date. For instance, part of the L's, and that's leadership, learning, and so on and so forth. So it's the C itself. But initially for you, skill, experience, attitude. Sit down and think about it. Think about it. Don't be scared of facing it. Alright? Don't be scared of facing your fear, facing whatever the problem is, and explore it. And for those, if I've managed to if I've managed to reach out to anybody who is actually suffering from PTSD, or is otherwise entering back into is going back on another tour, yeah, think about it. Skill, experience, attitude. How is it relevant? I could tell you, but it's not for me to tell you, is it? Because it's about you shaping you from the principal understandings. Yeah. Okay, so at this point we can begin to wrap this up. Clear your mind. No, I mean really clear your mind of all things, of troubles that are now that are not relevant to your current exploration and ready yourself basically for 30 to 60 minute moment to work through it all. If the simplicity of clarity, courage and commitment is not enough given on what we've spoken about so far, then try. Be clear, be concise, be confident and be committed. Yeah? Clear, concise, confident and committed. Yeah? And that will work for you. You just need the courage to make your way through it. Right. Okay, in the next section we're going to go into a realm that you don't always work with. We have mentioned it already, and we're going to utilize some of the metaphysical realms to be able to explain some of the logical realms, or how logic has come about. Yeah? Or is also part of the root of logic. And as you'll have seen, as we've been flicking through, about education. Yeah? Let's move on to that. Okay, we've made it through to this point now. It's our final slide. Final slide. The final slide is education. Personally, I'm quite the advocate of being a part of education, or advocate for education. As some will have noticed, I have a degree myself. I have a degree in management. It's basically a master's degree, so a Master of International Management. So what you're actually getting here is a level 7 or master's perspective on the matter, which basically means there's a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of skill, experience, and appropriate sense of attitude to get to that point. It's gone into this presentation, even if it is just at the moment the basics. To create this point, as I've mentioned throughout, there's been an element of faith within it. And as some of you have spotted, there's some cards here. As I've been saying, metaphorically speaking, laying your cards on the table. These cards are actually known as tarot cards. Yeah? There is, I have placed 2 documents, or 3 in total, but 2 of which is one is about the education, and the second one is about these cards for you to read through and for you to explore further from. But my suggestion is don't play with them if you're not prepared to learn about them. Which leads us on to one other word that I did mention in the last slide. I mentioned skill, experience, attitude. Yeah? There is a 4th forming what they call a seal. Yeah? The 4th word is actually the action word. Yeah? Skill, experience, attitude. Right? Those 3 with themselves are either collective, yeah, or in terms actually presentation. Yeah? Skill and experience are collectives, one against the other, or one in line with the other. And attitude is a derivative, or otherwise as a result of them too. Yeah? And it's also what you will use in your terms of presentation. It's how you address other people. Now hopefully so far throughout this presentation that what you've seen, what you've learned, what you've come to understand will progressively adjust your attitude based on what you've learned about yourself so far, your skill and your experience. Yeah, and how you can draw principle understandings out of many different scenarios. Yeah? To the point now where we have the action word. Now the action word in itself is, it could be virtually anything, but as part of the seal we narrow it down, which within part of circles actually shows us the L's. Maybe love, learn, link, loyalty. Now depending on the choice of your action word, and bearing in mind, you still have to be flexible depending upon the environment that you're in. That action word will determine the direction in which you go, yeah? Or how you work things out and how you move things along. Therefore, like skill and experience working side by side each other, your attitude and the action word that you choose will work side by side. Okay? In this instance, our action word is learning. In this instance, on this side of it all, is both learning and leadership. Putting learning and leadership together effectively is teaching. Okay? I'm teaching you about the world around you, the world inside of you, and the impacts that you have on the world around you, once again. And you shouldn't be fearful, you should not be scared of it. Yeah? So effectively, well done for making it this far. This part is going to, well, it comes in two parts. First off, we're going to address that 666. Okay? And I've done this through just this basic table here. Now, some people will already know this, and I've seen this through my research that people have begun to work this out. Yeah? So we've got stages. We've got 1 through to 8, but we're going to start off. 666, the mark of the beast. Oh, alright. I'll give you a rudimentary understanding first, before I open up a PDF to show you here, one that you can read online. Effectively is 1 through to 36 added together. So it's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus it again. Yeah? That in turn creates 666. Yeah? 3 and 6 equals 9. Yeah? How that works out is in numerology, and like I was saying before, it works on the influence, as you see. It makes 9. But that doesn't answer the 666, does it? Well, if you're looking closely how I've just done that, 3 plus 6 equals 9. 6 plus 6 plus 6. Yeah? 6, 12, 18. Yeah? 18, so 1 plus 8 is 9. It all makes 9. If I was to add these rows up independently of each other, yeah? 1 through to 6, 7 through to 12, and so on from 30 to 31 to 36, each one of them actually makes up 3. The 6 lines in themselves added together makes 18. So in turn it makes 9. So by the time we've finished, right, the whole answer is 9. 9 in terms of numerology, astrology, and various other tarot and so on and so forth, effectively leads you to the Hermit. Yeah? Upright the soul, soul searching, introspection, being alone, inner guidance. In reverse, which basically means that this is on its head, yeah, means isolation, loneliness and withdrawal. But because we're dealing with a proactive fashion, and because we are now identifying where we are and where we're going, yeah, and we need to learn about the path in between, we need to come to understand soul searching, which is introspection, what it is to spend time on our own to learn about both ourselves and the world around us, so for 30 to 60 minutes, and the inner guidance, that voice inside. But again, I'll go into that part in another presentation. So we are dealing with this in the upright fashion. But still, the 666 exists. Fear and evil, the beast. Oh. The additional documentation talks about the fox. Right. As you can see here, 666, 18, or the fox. When you look at the runes, or how numerology, or how names are made up, 666 is 6 is an F, is an O, and it's an X. Be it male or female, the fox is known to be a scavenger, sly and cunning, a trickster. Right? However, it can be defined in spirit terms as one who will lead you back to your path. Otherwise, is the teacher of greater understanding for a missed or misinterpreted lesson or lessons. Yeah? Fox are given the nature of the prior as well as the origin and what it's negatively synonymous for. That is, the fox can also be defined and understood as a long-tailed fox, otherwise being artificial, false, fake, or fictitious. Additionally, and whilst there is no such entity or physical manifestation, it does serve as a warning that ill intent will create such a personification, physically or metaphysically, alternatively, as we see below in 18. So by the time you've finished, you create this devil, or Baphomet, or even Pan, as I've explained in other videos in the past. Now, I'll leave this one for you to read within the documentation, but always remember within the considerations here, if your situation or life is of the negative, then seek the positive for a resolve. However, if positive, be mindful or vigilant of the negative and continue to work with positive. Now, in some realms of understanding, the animal is basically the beast or the animal in us, this backbone. It's the animal of it, the animal within us that still exists. Yeah? It exists within all beings, be it male or female. It does. And as other metaphors or analogies laid out, and you will find them in a lot of your films nowadays, it is basically when you're talking about the beast, who is good or bad, or in this case a wolf, representative of the fox, good or bad, good wolf or bad wolf, which one wins? The one you feed the most, yeah? Or the one you encourage the most, the one that you teach and train the most, the one that you give more attention to. So the negatives, if you give more attention to negatives in your life, that will be the winning scenario, will be the winning attitude, and it will steer your experiences, it will steer the level of development of your skill, yeah? And in turn lead into something else in the action world. Yeah? A betrayal of maybe loyalty, a betrayal of love, yeah? A betrayal of leadership, and so on and so forth. It's all representative. If we come to further understand numerology and its influences, we can move on to the first step. Okay, and these influences have been around for a very long time, for as far back as 300 BC. Yeah? As far as 300 BC, if not earlier, still. Yeah. So even still, within one line across the bottom, it still creates 9. So it's still representative of 9. And I found this within it, and I think it's quite good. It's 369, the goose track line, the monkey back on his line, the line broke, the monkey choked, they all went to heaven, the little road dog. By the time you're finished, it is a story within itself. If you concentrate on the negatives and you keep mistreating yourselves, which is where all your faith stuff comes in, your vices and your virtues, effectively you concentrate on one more than you do the other, much like the goose drinking wine and the monkey chewing tobacco on a streetcar line, so it's the cheeky side of things. That line will eventually break on you and choke off that action. Yeah. Two, building this up. So we are leading somewhere. It all leads in some way or another, just based on these numbers, 36 numbers alone. So representative of adding the corners together, it makes 10. Yeah? But because we have to add them together, 1 plus 0, it makes 1. We just keep skipping through these. We gain 4 because adding the corners together. We gain 2 because of adding 5 and 6, which is the corners again. Remember, it's here for you to work out. So it makes 11 but it adds up to 2, just 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1. 5, we're testing again. A cross-sectional view is our 1s. We keep testing again, right up the middle. Our 3s, 1, 1, 1s. We're testing it all, it adds up to 6. So we've tested these now. 9 plus 1 equals 10 plus 1, so it adds up. Right? 4 plus 2 equals 6, so it adds up. Yeah. Common numbers, strength in numbers, or strength of numbers, magic numbers, as some people will call them. Yeah. To a point where, when we add them up together, we gain what was number 7. Yeah. You have to take my word on it at the moment because the arrow is getting in the way. But it does say 7 behind there. Yeah? So fear and evil are no more. What is an actual fact? John has moved us onto this one here. The chariot is associated with the astrological sign of Cancer. It sits within a canopy of 6 pointed stars, yeah? Representing the celestial influence at work in this tarot card. So numerology. Yeah? We deal with linking. Yeah. See, number 2. This is only just a few of them. There it is. Number 2, the High Priestess, is also known as Persephone, Isis, the Corn Maiden, and Artemis. So you can have a look through these. For other related cards, see the supporting document. As I was showing you here, this is your supporting document, 18. Right, upright and in reverse. Also comes with runic understandings, as well as numerological understandings. So there's 3 ways of actually looking at this. Right. 0 numbers, 3s, as you've seen coming up, or you will see come up, 4s, and it all has their numeric understandings. Okay. Now all this in itself is relevant because what we're doing is learning. What we're doing is educating ourselves. But we're educating ourselves through numerology. Yeah? It's relevant to that up there. That is a level 7. I'm not saying that I am 7 or anything like that, but it is relevant nonetheless. Because as we move down here, we have the final piece of our puzzle. And now for the mathematicians and so on and so forth, for part of problem solving and so on and so forth, the dynamics of the world around us, an education system, while some people may not recognise this in the terms of education system, all the information that I've gleaned over the years, and as I've been studying sociology, studying management of people and leadership, politics, education and so on and so forth, it has effectively created this model. The model in itself works on a cycle too. There it does. Starting from our carryovers. Well, this is our carryovers, but our first carryover is 9. Yeah? Remember? Okay? 9 there. Yeah, the addition of the 2 of the first leading number, where it all started from. Introspection. Inner guidance, soul searching. That's where we're starting from. Here. In order to do that, we always have to go back to the beginning. Now, some will have noticed through this model that there's a row missing on the vertical and horizontal axis. There should be a 0 there and goes from 1 to 10, and then vice versa, and then the same again here. But what I've done is I've removed that row, and it's not against mathematical rulings or anything. What it does is it reduces the size of the actual table itself, but has no effect on the findings. It just, like I say, it just makes it bigger. And all I've tried to do is keep this down to a reasonable size. Okay. So where do we start? As is with all things, we start from the beginning. Yeah? Preschool. The ages of 1, or in this case, from the age of 4. Seems a little bit coincidental, does it not? Yeah, on that number grid. Seems coincidental. 9. Some of you will have noticed 9 there though. So all of a sudden there's a sense of significance beginning to come around. But if we look up here where the other circle is, there's 9 again. 1 plus 8, or 8 plus 1 in this case. 9 again. So we've now actually got a range. But oddly enough, there's a 42, 42, 42, and 42. It's arcing. You see here, look? Yeah? These are the learning curves. And this is the learning ladder. We get up to 9, so between the ages of 9 and 12, yeah? So across this section here, so we can work across this way or we can work up that way. Both, one is a mirror of the other, but that mirror actually creates our curve. Yeah? We take that out, we'd still have a curve, but I've kept it as extended to be able to show you the extent of that curve. Yeah? So between 9s and 12, right, there's 6 there. Right? When we add it up, remember we're adding whole numbers together, yeah, to create our platforming to work with. It's at this point, whilst it still exists here, in this period, it is from this point, 6, and there's a 6, and a 9. 9 is a transition. 9 is also known as transition. Yeah? Transition, secondary school. This is where challenges start to happen. So if you're watching this and you've downloaded the documents at the same time, you'll begin to understand what's meant by it all. But the number 6 in itself is the process of working with others on a much greater scale. It's also known as a challenge. And it forms part of the challenge. The Devlin number is also part of the challenge. Yeah? This is because we're learning more. It takes us 12 years. So it's a mastering period of nature and nurture. So 3. So 1 plus 2 is 3. It's a nature-nurture period. And 3 is known as the master's number. So the kids between this area here are mastering themselves to increasing their social circles, which are in small groups, and then the circles increase, or your circles increase. And you're going through a period of transition into your GCSEs, into your secondary school. We move up a step, we still work on the ladder. By the time we reach 16, age of 16, or depending on where you are and how apt you are in that regard, you are in that transitional, still in that phase. You know that? Between these two, your transition phase starts, your challenging period starts. Yeah? And it's around 16 when you've left your GCSEs. How ironic is that? Eh? Up to around about the 20, the 20s and 25. If you want to explore a little bit further, it's 24. How many people have been told in their lives that, you know, about learning and deciding your path and so on and so forth is around about the 24 part and choosing your life path between 21 and 24 and that. How ironic is that when you start looking at it like that? Yeah? We bring in the next number on the outer side like we've done here with the 42 to create 11. As we explored within the numerology, yeah, bear with me for un momento. Done the 9, and we have 11, which is justice. Right? We're now venturing into society. We're now learning to be more responsible. Yeah? We no longer have any excuses. You no longer have any excuses. Why? because your GCSEs have taught you as much. In that period of time, it should have taught you all the general principles of understanding. Yeah? To then move on to levels through to level 5, which is in the documentation that you'll find online. So I'm not going to go through it here, but as an outline, GCSEs are your principal understanding. This is about preschool, is about your social interaction. It's about your rudimentary problem solving and association between you, somebody else, and some of your actions. Listening, this respect, loyalty, so on and so forth. That's extended upon through your GCSEs. You begin to learn about the basic principles of everything that's happening around you. By which time, well, granted, not everybody's gone through them or succeeded in the final outcome, but most everybody's done them, and it's contributory to what they're doing now. To then extend upon that into the terms of justice, which is the laws within society itself. So our circles are beginning to grow. Yeah? We're beginning to understand what society is about and what is expected of us. Yeah? So law could be determined as being of the society, of economics, of politics, or within nature itself, as of man, human law or natural law. We're now beginning to learn more specifics about the path that we're travelling on. Yeah? And we do that in around this period of time. So it's not fixed, it's just around that period of time. It's purely dependent upon the individual. Yeah? Purely dependent on the individual. Right? Which leads us on to the next one. Level 6. For those who are not certain of what level 6 means, it is very daunting given the fact that it carries the number 6, but what it actually means is the bachelor's degree. The bachelor's degree is, whilst I have placed it down as creativity, it is also the first step of independent thought. In other words, you are now working on your own. To be able to do that, now you'll see where I get the creativity from. In order to do that, you must then become creative in your means. So the only way you become creative is by being able to understand what's going on around you and how it is they're doing it. And then you begin to learn how to put all of that together. Yeah? Ironically enough, based on what I've based on research and coming to understand of what people have been doing, again, it's around this period of time, isn't it? Yeah. Those who are apt enough, they will move on pretty quickly. Yeah. Hence the reason why it starts at 25, but it could go through to the ages of 30. Bearing in mind there is no set age. Right? If I was to use this, there is no set age in which you can and can't do it. Or I would say I can do it, because to get to this point you've got to have at least got through this, based on the amount of information that is being processed in this area. Okay? So you're around this area. Right? You can go further out, so it's up to purely dependent on the individual. But don't even have to go down this path. There are many interesting people out there, as the Sun Cream song says, that some people have not known what they wanted to do, and they're still just as much of an interesting person. Gone right through the entire life and not knowing what they wanted to do, or even not knowing how to do it. Some people have made multi-million-pound businesses whilst not actually climbing the academic ladder. There are other slants on that, but I'm not going to go into it. Again, we're going to do the advocacy of the educational path itself, because what it does is it helps with your conscious state of mind, and it helps with your perspective. Yeah? It helps you with your choices, and so on and so forth. We can then move to the next level, level 7. At this point, you are independent. You are actually independent. You're now creating things for yourself. You're now doing things. You're thinking outside of the box now. But not only are you thinking outside of the box, you are now challenging the system, because now what you've done at this stage is 9 again. It's the halfway mark. It's a transitional stage. All of this, from here through to here. Okay, 4 to 2s either side. Remember we were saying about 4, 2 6s into 9. Yeah. Between that period is predominantly the strongest part of your period of deviling. Now the period of deviling actually is defined by the law realms of being challenging your understanding or the understanding of others, challenging how the system works. If you need to, it's at this point you venture into the world of information and you can learn about this stuff for yourself. But you can be assured that it is a period of deviling, the mastery, with also the additional understanding that here works on local, regional and national. And at this point you break through the national understanding and go international. So you're now doing this on a worldwide level. Okay? Impact responsibilities, the choices that you make and so on and so forth. Cause and effect, causality. But that then in itself is also a transitional phase. And we can move on to the next level. Level 8. At this point we're now making an impact. Yeah? This level is actually the doctorate level, or PhD. Neither one is higher than the other. What it actually means is that this level, a doctorate, a PhD, it's not widely spoken about now because most people are really not that bothered. Purely and simply it's because it's just the level, per se, no story. But if we was to break it open a bit more for you, okay, what we've got is a path, is a direction. Doctorate being more, shall we call it, of the practitioner, yeah, as you will know as a doctor, is more of the practitioner, so the principal understanding is the practitioner, and the PhD is more about the teacher or the professor, the researcher, yeah, and delivering that information to make sure the economy knows and understands what's going on. Yeah? So the practitioner in themselves can help. It works with the practitioner, hence the reason why it's on the same level, because it helps the practitioner to come to further understand what it is they're practicing within their own understanding. So it's like a double paradox, like when you bring two magnets together and you create that double sphere. Yeah? It's like the two coming together to work off of each other and feed each other. Yeah. And now that in itself can be said it's around this time. Yeah? Again, depending on the nature of the individual, it could be sooner, it could be later. It's not definitive, it's not set in stone. Yeah? Okay. Now, from triggering that one off, you'll have noticed another colour come up down here. Yeah? Now this lot here, you shall see some of the lines, blue, black, red. Red is this. Yeah. There's these lines, so it's education in itself. It's a learning curve and everything that's in it. Yeah. Eastern is the blue line here, because they're working on a 13 calendar month, rather than going from 10 to 10, right, in the terms of its metrics, right, which would clearly put that in the middle. Yeah. Because there's a dual number here, and the learning curve and the two 9s I've placed there, which is the western side of things. So 10 is the metrics, 12 is the months. Yeah. That in itself creates a set of numbers. Them numbers, no matter how coincidental you may think they are, they do coincide. How did they coincide? Right. So, first off, what we've got, you can see the education side of things. Yeah. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, yeah, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, and so on and so on and so forth. 21, yeah, I know. There's nothing else after that. Eastern is down this way, yeah, so it doesn't matter which way you go, it's both the same. Same with the western. 10, 8, 6. Okay, so we're climbing there in twos. So this is reflective of the mirroring, reflective of the two, east and west. We could do a north and we could do a south, but it's marginally irrelevant given the fact that it's in ones, twos, and so on and so forth. Yeah, see it? To fill this in, when we start working that out, what we do is we get to 0. Yeah? It resets itself because we've reached the maximum. So we go back around again, creates a loop. Now this becomes relevant also, and we've created some numbers out of it. Look, 6, 6, and there's an 8 in there. Yeah? In order to come to understand this and to help us better understand other stuff, we're going to have a look at the history now. Yeah? We've got a blank, some of you will have noticed. Now if you actually look at the way things are working, you'll see there's a pattern. Some are happening more than others, others are happening more of a unified approach, whilst others are not. But one way or another, they're in steps of twos. In this one, it would be 1. Oops. My apologies because I hit enter. Now, that in itself creates the bridge. 2, 0, 1, 3, 1, 1. They've been fortunate. It's not shunted out of line, it's created 9, which in turn creates 21. And now if we look at this and make our way up, Kaizen, or continual development. If you look at this again, so if we come back down the screen, 1 and 1, 0 and 2. If we look at history, we come to this area here. What we've got, let's call it 1949. Okay? Between 49 and 56, the Eastern realms, after World War II, had themselves an economic problem. And it was the Western realms that stepped in to help them out. They would have all been, if not just normal businessmen as well, would have all been valets. Based on the spirit and nature of the war, people wanted to grow, they don't want to ever see that war again. What they've done is created a bridge or a restart. So in order to, by restarting that themselves, they've restarted this themselves to continue growing. Yeah. The Eastern may continue further, but at the same token, so will these. The restart here may not necessarily mean that it's an end. No, it's a cycle. So we're starting to cycle. Yeah? Everything's starting to cycle. Some cycles last longer than others, and it's known as a transitional period. Yeah, like we're saying here, a transitional period. And this is where the transitional period ends. So we're going up, and we've got this number. It reveals this number from this one here. But don't be frightened of it. This in itself, whilst we have here, this is where it brings us back to this level. Yeah. Why? Because it's, again, nature and nurture. It's 12, it's the opposite to 12. Yeah, but it still makes 3, which is the master's number. We need to learn again, which is what was happening there, relearn, and how to grow. Some have asked, what does it actually mean? Well, it means it's the master's number, or form of that master's number. It means basically you're cycling again. Yeah? You're going back through the learning curve again. Some people have been asking, well, what is there more beyond now? Beyond what we've got now? There must be more than what there is now. Yeah? And this again, through problem solving, through coming to understand perspective, and through the choices that we make throughout life, whether it be researching or anything like that, helps us come to see and understand what goes on, or what could happen in front of us. From the 20% of that's actually going on outside of our world, yeah, the 80% is still unwritten, so we need to work something out. Yeah? But before we do that, we need to do a test to validate all of this. Let's come up here. Have you noticed that the 9's moved across? Because the 9's come up again, and the 9's here. Yeah? We do this. Speculatively speaking, there's something in it all. And you'd be surprised to know that whilst we work this out up here to be all 3's, believe it or not, adding all these rows up independently of each other actually all add up to 9. Yeah, some of you have been able to figure it out, aren't you? The next step up. Hence the coloured lines and the 9's and all the rest of it. You've been able to see it. Yeah. Well, this in itself here, this, yeah, this one is all of these. Well, that is up here, between there and there, between 1 and 100. Yeah. 118, 118, 818, yeah, is between there, which is where your other table will have started, to there. Well, because we need to make it fair, right, based on perspective, remember, so there's more than one perspective here, we've gone from there to there. Each of which, one adds up to 16, one adds up to 17, and the other one adds up to 18. Oh, the cruel irony. When we start working it out, what we've got is 7, 8, and 9. Some would naturally choose 9. Some will choose 7 because 7 exists. But because of the order of things, the decision's already been made for us, isn't it? 8 being the next step up is in fact our median number, but 8. Right. Here's references I was talking about before. Yeah, numerology as far back as 325 AD. In some instances it goes back further to BC, but its predominant marker is there between 325 AD and 1907. First Council of Nicaea, St. Augustine of Hippo, Pythagoras and Samos, Tarot, 1418 to 1494 AD, and also 1540 to 1750. Now, 1540 to 1750 is predominantly when tarot came around. Cards in themselves came around in the 1400s. Yeah, and it's been worked on ever since. So what does it all mean? What it means for those who are asking, it can mean one of two things. I've chosen one of them. It can either mean a level 9, which is more of, because of enlightenment, based on your impact, based on the independence, based on creativity and the laws of the world, and nature and nurture, creates a sense of enlightenment. Yeah? It doesn't have to be a level 9, it could be a level 8, and the level 8 is shunted up. Because by the time you finish one way or the other, whether it be 8 or whether it be 9, yeah, it doesn't matter. It stops there, the transitional phase to the rest of the learning. Learning is life learning. Who knows what lies on beyond there? Because the other side to it all is, as well as you've got a level 9, or we add in a level in here somewhere, and shunt that up to be a new level 8, on level 8, right? By the time we're finished, right, again with the enlightenment of the impacts that we have based on our independence and level of creativity within the laws of society and all other areas, and because we've now come to understand nature and nurture, the fact that we work on local, regional and national and international, yeah, these two here, international, yeah, so local, regional, national, international, because of all the talks happening at the moment out there about going out there, what we've got is one final level, and there it is, and that is beyond the planet. See, that's the thing about education. Now, there is nothing else beyond here. That is the thing about education. The more you learn, the more you come to understand. The more you come to understand, the more you can see. As I've mentioned in the past, the conscious state of mind is very much like, shall we say, mist, but mist in quite the opposite way. Whereas the more mist there is, the lesser state of conscious mind. The clearer the mist, or the finer the mist, meaning the conscious state of mind is beginning to increase, because it's our depth of perception, our view, our range of understanding, yeah? How far we can actually see and what we see. Like with examples of driving, learning to drive. Learning to drive is one thing, right? Learning to drive in a fashion whereas it's entertaining or productive is another. The example that I can break that apart, principally speaking, throwing the principles out, is that when people say that car is a weapon, but it's only as dangerous as its driver. The level of danger of the driver is based on the level of awareness of what's going on around them, their level of responsibility also, yeah? Which is what this is. Level of responsibility and the conscious awareness of the environment. The clearer, the more you know and understand and accept and able to work with it all, the clearer and stronger your conscious state of mind will become. Very well. It's relevant to driving based on running commentaries. Some people may have had this happen to them through their driving lessons, others won't. But running commentary is, first and foremost, you start off on entering into the car. Yeah? What you're doing within the car, so that's effectively just your lessons in general. Yeah? To the car actually moving. To what is the car actually doing? What is around the car? What other actions and reactions are going on around? So 3 cars have just passed me on the side of the carriageway, assuming that we're on a dual carriageway. A couple of cars are just about to overtake me. There's 3 more cars behind me, 1 red, 1 white, 1 blue. 1 pink, 1 yellow, and 1 green in front. There's a black one on the other side on its way down. It's got its bloody main beams on for no apparent reason. You know, that type of thing. There's an articulated vehicle up ahead. It seems its trailer seems to be swirling slightly, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah? Conscious awareness. Yeah? Enlightenment. So whether it's 9 to represent here, which there's a cruel irony for you. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. Only one row that adds up to its starting number. Okay. It's transitional also. Yeah. So this is why I've said about level 9, moving beyond our current understanding of this world, even if it's this world in a physical aspect. Yeah? and then being able to go off elsewhere. The reason for that is basically, in my own view, to exemplify how this works and the fact that I've used this model myself to be able to go through all this information to show you that results do come from it, from utilizing these 5 steps. Yeah, is the level of responsibility that's actually required by people when we leave the earth. The level of detachment. Yeah. Here we go. We've gone right through the entire process. Yeah. Perspective. Choices, circles, problems, education. It loops back. Each one can loop through the other if needs be. Yeah? Each one works with the other. Yeah? Perspective is a derivative of other choices or our own choices. Yeah? That then has an impact on the circles that we create, or otherwise the problems that are created. Not only that, perspective helps us with the problems that we resolve. And we can only do all of this through learning. Okay? Our learning helps us with our perspective. Well, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope it's not been too deep for you, and it's not been too metaphysical or metaphorical and whatnot. Remember, have a play around with them first before doing anything with them. Build confidence up in what it is you're about to do. Yeah? I hope it's been of help for you. This is in the training room, so you can ask questions. It's not about steering your life or about telling you what to do with your life. That is entirely up to you. Yeah? But if you need help with it, help will always be there. You enjoy the rest of your day, and I will speak to you soon.